Johnny, this is Troutman. Where the hell are you?
Rambo, this is Murdoch. We're glad you're alive. Where are you? Give us your position and we'll come to pick you up.
Murdoch. I'm coming to get you.
So in our last session, kind of looked at Pastor Tassi's definitions of fatalism and stuff like that, and a little bit of the charge that you can't have free actions, and I'm taking it again. It's his presupposition basically that freedom is an absolute human right, that we have to be able to be free from God. We must be autonomous from God, or else it seems, at least in his view, what's it all for the most part. Now let me just say, because I think it came across in some of my videos, that I am espousing determinism in some ways, and I am not a determinist, whether a hard determinist or a soft determinist. I am a compatibilist, and I do want to clarify a lot of these definitions too. So what I'm probably going to take the time to do actually is discuss, maybe even critique a little bit determinism, discuss libertarianism, the view of autonomous free will, and discuss compatibilism, and try to show, again, I'm not going to try to prove each of these from Scripture, and since I don't think Scripture explicitly lays out these doctrines, they're kind of things that we just see in passing, for the most part, at least how we're going to look at this. I find compatibilism to be the most biblical view. So hopefully this video will demo why, and then I think what I'll do from here is basically just go on and give further commentary in response back to Pastor Tassi's video. So let's critique a little bit more. Okay, so let me kind of just finish off a little explanation on determinism. Remember, determinism is the belief that all choices are determined by something else. Okay, in regards to the human will, the difference between that and fatalism is that determinism will put agency between different events, between cause and effect, basically, versus fatalism doesn't necessarily have the means that bring about an event. They can just happen with or without agency. Calvinism is not fatalism. That needs to be made clear, because Calvinists do believe that God has ordained means and secondary causes. I think the Calvinists, the Westminster Confession of Faith, lays that out in the doctrines and the decrees of God, and the chapters on providence. So that to say that a Calvinist is a fatalist is certainly an ill charge. Okay, but let's kind of go on here. Okay, theologically speaking, determinism is certainly attuned with the sovereign decrees of God. Okay, which is that all things that happen have been predetermined from eternity. So we can kind of give, in one sense, determinism a plus here. Thus, we could call the belief in the eternal, immutable decrees of God, as some have said, theistic determinism. That is to say, the Reformed or the Calvinist traditions believe that all events happen precisely as God has foreordained or predestined them to happen. And you can look at Ephesians 1:11 for that. There we go. Got me a new Bible today. Kind of opening it up for the first time. And here we go. Ephesians 1:11. In him we have obtained an inheritance, having been predestined according to the purpose of him who works all things according to the counsel of his will. And so we see that God works all things, and there's certainly nothing within the text here, within the context, to limit that all things. And thus we can, fully leave ourselves trusting to God, because he works all things according to his purpose, not some things, or is trying to get a hold of some things and can't grasp on people's wills. He works all things according to the counsel of his purpose. So, in a very real sense, a Christian who believes in the God described in the Bible must necessarily hold to determinism of some sort. The main critique against determinism is this: if all events happen necessarily, then how or on what basis is man free and responsible for his actions? Because this is really, I think, in dealing with this issue, the issue of responsibility is the biggest one that we need to see settled. Most people are going to say, well, if I'm not free, then how can I be responsible? And we'd have to, of course, critique that assumption on what grounds that is there. Okay, But for instance, okay, so let's say here, to give a biblical example, the scriptures plainly teach that Judas was chosen from the beginning to betray Christ. Now, if Judas was chosen to betray Christ and the betrayal was foreordained and determined by God, this means that Judas necessarily betrayed Christ. For otherwise, God's decree would not have come to pass and God would not be sovereign, and ultimately, we could argue, not God. Now, the question is Judas responsible for this act that was committed? It happened of necessity. It happened according to God's decree. Now, some more distinctions. A hard determinist position would say that Judas holds no moral responsibility, for Judas's action was caused by something beyond his control. A soft determinist still maintains moral responsibility, however. Okay, I think Christian theism is right in maintaining determinism of some sort. That is, that all things happen necessarily by God's decree and providence. Otherwise, who's in control? For in it, God is truly God and alone determines all things in the world. All things are ultimately caused by God on a primary level. God is the primary cause for all things, but still, the question of responsibility lingers. Now again, a soft determinism says he's still responsible, but they really haven't answered the whole basis of why. It's just, well, yeah, we have to. Kind of more, it seems to be more pragmatic than anything. How are the creatures who are acting out in accordance with God's predetermined will to be responsible? Christian theology must reject the position of non-responsibility, for it is clear from the scriptures that God holds us morally accountable for our actions, and as will finally be seen in the great day of judgment. So there's my critique, in one sense, against determinism. I do not believe that it is a sufficient system for understanding how God can be in charge of all things, but yet how we can still be responsible. If X necessarily brings Y, and I had, in one sense, no type of role in my own agency in it, but I'm kind of just I'm just a domino, can't do anything else. It doesn't seem like a good position to hold in Christian theology, because clearly we see ourselves acting, we see ourselves making choices, and we see ourselves as part of the grand scheme of things. So on that level, on both of these positions, I reject determinism and I reject fatalism. Calvinism is neither one of those fully.